Hey first graders, today we're going to talk a little bit about the setting of a story when you are writing a fiction story. So far we have learned that fiction writers will start by thinking of a character. They're going to come up with any character they want. It could be a person or it could be an animal. So we talked about this list of animals, people, things, community helpers. We are also learning about fairy tales right now. So some of these things that you hear in the fairy tales we're learning about, like the knight, the dragon, the princesses, royalty, those might be some things that you want to include in your fiction writing too. So if you want to think about writing maybe your own fairy tale, that could be a fiction story that you're working on right now also. So we've learned about creating a character. And then after you came up with what type of character it was going to be, you gave that character a name and you named the character. Now, what I want to look at today is where is your story going to take place? So that's called the setting of the story. So where is your story going to happen? Now you have to be careful with this because it has to make sense. You want your setting to match the character of the story and make sure that it all sounds okay and that it makes sense. So for example, if I was writing a story about a fireman, what would probably be the best setting for that particular story? It could be at a park where he's rescuing somebody. It could be at the fire station. Putting a fireman on the moon might not make sense. So you want your setting to match the character and match what your story is going to be about, okay? So these are kind of, it's fiction, so it's made up, but we still want it to be kind of realistic, meaning that it could kind of be something that would happen. So realistic fiction is kind of what we're looking at too. So thinking about some of the stories that I've showed you so far. I've showed you this book before, Llama, Llama, Grandma, and Grandpa. The characters they made up, and the baby llama or the little llama is going for a sleepover with Grandma and Grandpa. What would the setting be for this story that would make sense? Would it make sense to put Llama, Llama at the park? Would it make sense to put Llama, Llama in a castle? No, those types of things don't make sense. The setting that makes sense for this particular story is the grandparents' house. They're in Grandma and Grandpa's house. They're doing stuff in the garage. They were doing stuff, he has dinner with them in their kitchen. So it's at their house. That's the setting for this story. This story takes place in the grandparents' home. And that makes sense. If the llama is having a sleepover, it makes sense that the story would take place at that house where the sleepover is happening. Okay, let's take a look at Froggy's first kiss. So in this story, remember they came up with this character named Froggy, and now they're going to make a setting that matches where Froggy will be. What makes sense? Froggy's getting a Valentine from his class, somebody else in his class. What do you think would make sense if he's getting Valentines from his classmates? What would be a setting that could match that particular idea? At school. So Froggy is at school in this story, and you can tell that he's at school because of the desks and the teacher and the other students, and that's where this story takes place, is in a classroom, okay? And that makes sense because he's getting a Valentine. So the Valentine's going to happen at school. It's like what we did this year. We shared Valentines with each other, and we did that at school. So that is the setting that makes sense for that particular character. Okay, this is a story about Franklin, and he's very messy, and he's looking for something. And the setting that matches this character is his house. So it starts out where he's in his house, but then also he's outside playing with other animals. So that makes sense to me that these animals would be outside playing together because animals are found outside. And then when he's lost something, he's in his home. So part of this story is set in the woods outside of his home, and then the other half of this story, he's in his house where he's trying to find something that he has misplaced. So thinking about the story today, we really want our setting to match what the character is, who the character is, and then thinking about what your idea for the story is going to be. you want to continue thinking about what setting will make sense. Okay, so we want it to all kind of match and make sense. So on this poster that I've started here for fiction writers, so number 1, make up a pretend character. Number 2, give the character a name. And then number 3, this is the new one that I added, choose a setting. So I just drew like a city or the woods or the forest. So which setting would make sense? You have to pick the setting that makes the most sense for your character, okay? So one thing that we've done with this so far is you might have drawn your own kind of hand story planner like this at home. If you don't have a planner like this at home, you can just talk about it. So kind of think about what would make sense in your head, go through all the ideas, and then once you have all your ideas, then you can start writing. But remember that a good writer will usually start with a plan, something like this, to help you get all your ideas organized before you put them down on a piece of paper. So I do want you to try to do some kind of planning before you begin the story. That way all of your ideas are ready to go and organized before you begin the writing, okay? So on my story planner, what I decided last time was that my character, I started by thinking of a character and then I gave the character a name. And I named my character Buzz, and it was a bee, a bumblebee named Buzz. So now what I need to move on to is what setting would make the most sense for a bumblebee? Would it make sense for my bumblebee named Buzz to be on the moon? Probably not. Would it make sense for my bumblebee named Buzz to be at the beach? Maybe not. How about if my bumblebee named Buzz was at the farm? He could be at the farm. He could be in the woods. He could be in the field with some flowers. He could be at the park. These would be some settings that might make sense for a character who is a bee named Buzz. I am going to go with, I'm going to just say he's at the park. So on the second part of my plan here, right here, I'm kind of turn it on its side here because it's written sideways. It says setting. So we did character and I named my character here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill out this finger right here of setting. And that's as far as we're going to get on our planner today because I really want us to go slowly with this and figure out how to do our plan just a little bit at a time. So I'm going to write the setting. I'm going to write the word park. R has one of those R-controlled vowels in it. Park. And then I'm going to just draw a really quick sketch. I'm not going to take too long to draw a sketch here. When you write your story, you can always draw some pictures afterwards. But for me, I'm just going to draw a really quick sketch here of a park with some trees and a couple flowers. Okay? So I've got my setting picked out. I've picked out the character is Buzz the bee, and I've picked out that the setting is going to be in a park. And then the next thing that I'm going to start thinking about is what's going to happen to Buzz the bee in the park. I'm going to next be thinking about the adventures that he's going to go on. Is there a problem that happens? Is something going to be causing bee trouble that he has to figure out how to solve this problem? So those are going to be the next lessons that we're going to be talking about. When you are coming up with the setting today, I want you to think about some of these settings. Some of these might be a good fit for your story. You might have a different idea for a setting that you think makes more sense, and that is okay. You can pick whichever one you think is going to make the most sense. So here's a couple of examples. Woods, okay, city, school, kingdom, moon, beach, outer space, farm, maybe on a ship. So looking at our character ideas poster and our setting ideas poster, you might see how some of these would go together. Like maybe the thing, that little alien in the character page, might belong on the moon or the spaceship. Maybe the knight or the princess or the prince would go with the kingdom, the setting over here for kingdom. So there are some characters that just kind of make sense with some of these settings, but you can get creative and kind of think of your own ideas here. But if you need some help with settings, I'm going to put this page on the flip grid so you can look at this page too and see if you need some ideas for setting. So remember this poster back here behind me? When you're writing a fiction story, you can make up your character, give that character a name, then pick a setting for that character. Where's the story going to happen? Make sure that it makes sense. And then after that, this whole part that we're going to fill in over here is going to be kind of about creating a problem and a solution and all of the other adventures, the things, the events that are going to happen in your story. So kind of taking us through how when we read a story, we know that a fiction story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and lots of extra details. We're going to be doing that as we write fiction stories too. We want our stories to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we are going to plan all of that. That's all of the process of writing a fiction story that we're going to learn about. For now, go ahead and pick a character and a setting and see what you can do from there, okay? I hope you all are having a nice day and working hard on your fiction stories. Bye!